Welcome to the Sports Arena, your front row ticket to the best in sports talk and entertainment. Great analysis, top-name guests, and news you can use from the sports landscape. So, take your seats, sit back, and relax, as you are now in the Sports Arena.
You know what you're capable of. Fix it.
And here's your host, Eric Wilson.
Wins. I'm like, all right, let's go. We get losses. I'm like, I need a minute. Let me collect myself.
What's up, everybody? Man, Eric Wilson, Sports Arena here. I've got not a lot of time, so I'm just going to jump right into things today. I want to welcome a gentleman. You may hear his voice throughout this entire show because the man who did that very solid intro for me is joining me today. He is professor at Quinnipiac University and also radio host of the New England Public Media Radio Network, Mr. Michael Lyle Jr. Michael, what's going on, man? How you been, brother?
I'm doing good, Eric. Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing well. So let's dive right in, sir, if we will, because you are up there in the Connecticut, Massachusetts, Boston area. So I want to know from you just your thoughts on Cam Newton so far, that relationship between him and Bill Belichick. What have you seen, and what has been the talk of the town?
The talk of the town has been that they trust each other. I mean, everybody was a little skeptical at first when they signed him in the summer, and they thought that, well, he's going to have to step in some big shoes to fill for Tom Brady who's no longer here. So everybody was wondering what will he do in terms of he's not Tom Brady, but can he still make plays and can he still make things happen? And clearly Cam has shown that even after 3 weeks, he still has it. Aside from the loss against Seattle, he pretty much shows he is still a legit quarterback. And the fans around here have tried to embrace him now. I mean, it was the first game he showed everybody what he's all about. And the second game, he took a step backwards, but then last week he took another step forward. So I think as they continue to see the progression, they're going to get used to Cam, and they're going to see that he's really a versatile quarterback. Again, he's not Tom Brady, but he's still pretty damn good.
Yeah, and I agree. Like I said, that game against Seattle, you're going to get up against an MVP in Russell Wilson. I'm just glad to see the matchup. I love that matchup. So let's talk about their matchup Sunday. Speaking of the Patriots, they're facing Mahomes and the champs. What do you think one of those key factors is going to be in this game?
Defense. The Patriots defense gave up a lot of points against Vegas last week, so defense for the last couple of seasons has not been great. So they're going to have to really tighten down defensively. They're going to plan on keeping them from scoring points. Offensively, they already know they can score points. This all comes down to defense. If the Patriots can limit them to at least maybe 10 points and keep them out of the end zone, they have a legitimate chance of pulling off a victory here, which would be a pretty big one, even though this is early in the season. But this would be a pretty big significant win if they could pull it off.
Well, listen, I mean, they've added an additional team to the playoffs. So getting that number one spot is going to be so imperative. And we know in the AFC, when you've got teams like the Chiefs and the Ravens, I mean, you're expecting one of those to take that number one spot. So I do agree with you. Getting that win versus the champs could prove to be very pivotal as the weeks and the season progresses. So, given the success, because I want to transition to Buffalo really quick. Given the success of Buffalo thus far, do you personally still feel that the Patriots could win this division or will still win the AFC East?
They could. I mean, like you said, it comes down to Buffalo and them now. So I think that the Patriots can certainly win the division. They are certainly in contention for it. Buffalo's going to be a challenge. I'm sure people will look forward to that match when it does come around. They're going to see that. I mean, those two games between each other, that could very well determine the division right there, Eric. I mean, the winner of those two matches are pretty much going to win the AFC East. Have a split, that might work too, but then, of course, you got to run the table with the rest of the division.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking with Michael Lyle, professor at Quinnipiac University and the host of New England's Public Media Radio Network. So, we had the NBA and the WNBA finals beginning. The NBA finals were last night, but I wanted to talk about the two teams that were represented coming from your area. Give me your thoughts, Michael, on the Celtics season. What did you think of them inside the bubble?
I think everything went well until they ran into a buzzsaw that was the Miami Heat. Clearly, the series was lost after those first two games. I think the stuff kind of downplayed the competition a little bit because they were the favorites to win the East after they knocked out the Raptors. And Miami was pretty good, but I think everybody thought the Celtics had all the pieces to the puzzle finally together that they were ready to make this run. But the Heat, out of those first two games in the Eastern Conference Finals showed them otherwise. And the problem was they got off to slow starts in both of those games. They had to play catch-up for most of the second half, and unfortunately, by that point, it was just too late. Jimmy Butler was a beast in those finals. He was really one of the guys that made things happen for the Heat. The Celtics went hot and cold at some point during some stretches, and unfortunately, they just didn't get the productivity out of Kemba Walker. Jason Tatum has some good games, but they just didn't get them enough to where they can match the intensity that the Heat brought. And that's why, unfortunately, they're not there, and the Heat are in the finals.
Yeah, and we saw the Heat go out to a quick burn, if you will, last night, but unfortunately they weren't able to get it done. I mean, you've got LeBron, you've got AD, you've got Rondo, and we can get into that another time. Listen, before I let you go, and thank you so much for being here on the Sports Arena, I got to talk to you about the women because when Connecticut beat Chicago in WNBA, I was like, okay, then I'm riding with Connecticut all the way. And it just looked like they were driven, they were focused, they were going to remind people who they were. Unfortunately, against the Aces, they came up a little short. We've got the Storm, we've got the Aces in the WNBA Finals. But talk to me about the success of the Connecticut Sun and also moving forward with this team.
I think it's remarkable the fact that they started 0-5, Eric, and they ran the table to the WNBA semifinals. I mean, that's unheard of. They're one of the very few teams in the league history that has done that. I think, unfortunately, they ran into a buzzsaw again with the Vegas Aces. They have the MVP and the Jai Wilson. And mind you, not to make excuses for the Sun, but they were out of their best players. John Quell Jones opted out. So they were kind of they lost a double-digit scorer and a double-digit rebounder, but they still had DeWanna Bonner and they also had Alyssa Thomas to keep the load on. But unfortunately, Vegas had a lot of veteran players and made the plays down the stretch. And then the last two games of that series, Connecticut started off hot, but unfortunately, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. They finished ice cold from the field, and Vegas turned up their intensity on defense, and they kind of threw Connecticut off guard a little bit, and they were a little bit rattled down the stretch. So a remarkable season, yes, but unfortunately, they knew they had the talent to get to the finals, and they had one to get there, but they hit the wrong time to start getting ice cold from the field in that decisive Game 5. And unfortunately, that's why they are not in this thing in the finals.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I was feeling the same thing about the Chicago Sky. Had off to a great start. And just being a part of that organization this season and working with them, I was like, okay, this is going to ride. But like you said, that buzzsaw, when they hit Connecticut just turned it up to that next level. So, Michael, I know you were pressed for time, but I want to thank you so much for joining me here on the Sports Arena. Please let my listeners and followers and viewers know where they can find you, where they can listen to you, because you are a man who carries many hats.
I'm actually on campus right now as I speak to getting ready for my class. Well, I can be found on social media at Lyle Multimedia on Twitter and Instagram. You can also search me on Facebook at Michael Lyle Jr. That's what my name says there. So.
Awesome. Please be safe up there in Connecticut, brother. We will definitely speak soon.
For over 100 years, the story has been written, ever-changing and growing with each new chapter. The soul remains, though the characters change. Bigger, faster, stronger, smarter.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide.
So too grows our fandom. Start miles ahead. The 2020 Prospect Encyclopedia. September. Available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Blitzalytics.com.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Sports Arena. Your man, Eric Wilson here. And a big thank you to my boys at Blitzalytics, man. If you do not have that prospect encyclopedia, you are truly missing out. These boys, analytics, they break it down to you from top to bottom. Well, let me welcome in my next guest. She is kind enough to join me here back on the Sports Arena for the third time's a charm, Miss Karen Loftus, WFLA sports reporter. Karen, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing well. First and foremost, congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning, Stanley Cup champions. I was watching the parade yesterday, and let me just say, it's nice for now the championships to start coming in to this area. We may have to keep you around if we keep winning. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying, too. You know, it's maybe not a coincidence that I got here and we're winning.
Exactly. So I want to jump right in and talk about these Bucks because, we're entering that phase where teams are really starting to get their timing down. I think the preseason portion per se is over, but given the high expectations that everybody, the fans, have for the Bucks this year, what's your assessment of them after week 3?
I think they are living up to the expectations. I think looking back, week 1, was against the Saints, who were probably the most prepared team with everybody they had returning, the talent on that roster to jump into the season without preseason games. But since then, we've seen improvements in every facet of the game for the Bucks. They've definitely shown amazing bright spots on defense. You talk about Levante David getting NFC Defensive Player of the Month, and then Antoine Winfield Jr., who's been playing out of his mind, gets NFC Defensive Rookie Player of the Month, and Shaq Barrett gets the weekly honor. So they're cleaning up on defense. And then they have 4 interceptions already, which they had 12 all of last season.
Right.
Definitely improvement there. You talk about the secondary. I mean, they've shown flashes. And just what Todd Bowles is dialing up, that everybody is getting in on the action. Some of these blitz packages, tons of different people getting sacks. I mean, it seems like it's coming together if you talk about defensively, which I think the fans should be happy that they're living up to the expectations. And then offensively, we've definitely seen the growth with Tom Brady, his receivers, everybody getting on the same page. And the other encouraging thing is that they have so many offensive weapons that they have been able to pull the pieces that they need for whichever defense, whatever they are bringing them.
Right.
Like last week, you saw the tight ends getting more involved because they were doubling Mike Evans. So they said, okay, well, let's go down the list of all of our weapons and act accordingly.
Pretty much. Speaking of one of those weapons, I know you guys are going to be without Chris Godwin this week when the Chargers do come to town. But can you speak to how Scotty Miller, a name that everybody talked about in the offseason and preseason, how he is fitting in with the Bucs so far?
Scotty's great, and I don't think it's any secret how much Tom Brady loves him.
Very true.
Very true. And we saw that in training camp, not only just the rapport they have on the field, but the way that Tom Brady spoke about him and vice versa. The one thing about Scotty Miller, he's been DNP, did not participate for most of this week with a hip groin injury. So I think that's TBD whether he's going to play on Sunday. But it has been a really cool relationship between Tom Brady and Scotty Miller, just to see him getting involved. I mean, it's his speed, I think. Tom Brady's talked about his speed and his reliability, which, I mean, you can't ask for much more than that out of your receivers.
You really can't. You really can't. So we did see that, unfortunately, we had a bit of a small outbreak between Tennessee and Pittsburgh. I know they have shut down their game on Sunday. They will not play. From your standpoint, Karen, has the team implemented any new rules, regulations, or procedures when it comes to, not necessarily containing, but just any new guidelines with the Bucs moving forward?
I haven't seen any. I think that they did a really good job, and I can't really speak to any other teams, how they're handling things in-house, but I know that the Bucs have taken every precaution that you could even imagine. And I don't know if that's across the league or if that's specific in-house with the Bucs, as far as like the tracing bans and just how they're doing things, giving players the option to stay in the hotels, and just doing their best. And I think that maybe the Bucs, and this is just my opinion, I feel like the Bucs know what they have on their roster and what is at stake for them this season. And not saying other teams don't, but, when you have a legitimate chance to win a championship, you're not going to mess around. You're going to go to the practice facility and back. When you travel, you're going to stay in your room and you're going to act accordingly. Okay. And I don't see any of those guys slipping up because they know what's at stake this season and that this is, once in a lifetime opportunity with all these pieces coming together for them.
Yeah, all these weapons that Tampa has. And as I've been saying since March, everything is falling into place for the Buccaneers to be successful and to create history. So I got to talk to you about your opponent coming up this Sunday. It is the LA Chargers. As much as we would hope and wish that it would have been Tyrod, and I hope he gets well, it is in fact going to be the rookie, Justin Herbert, who, he was thrown to the Wolves. And of all people to get thrown to, you got thrown to Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. He had a very, I will say, solid performance last week, but now you're facing Tom Brady. More importantly, you're facing that Bucs defense. What are your thoughts on the Chargers-Bucs matchup this Sunday?
I'm thinking that Bucs defense is going to come after him, like relentless, like blood in the water, take no prisoners. Todd Bowles is going to show you something.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I think that first and foremost from the defensive side of things. But I was reading something that Brady has never lost to a rookie quarterback, his counterpart, a rookie quarterback that he's playing when he's been at home in his entire 21-year career. And also, think about the age difference. I think Herbert is 20 years old and Brady's 43. So just, that interesting dynamic of the ends of the spectrum that they're 20-some years apart, which is wild. So, and I think there's only 4 rookie quarterbacks that have ever beaten Tom Brady. And those were away games. Yeah.
Okay,
I saw something else that so Herbert was 3 years old. So this will be Herbert's 3rd NFL start if he's, starting. Right. And he was 3 years old when Tom Brady had his 3rd career start. 3.
Hey, I mean, it's one of those things how, sometimes coincidences, we call them coincidences, but sometimes it's just fate. I'm excited for this matchup because we know the Bucs are home. We know no fans are going to be there, so we're going to have to watch it like everybody else, except for you, who's going to be in stadium. So I'm excited for this. And, you're 13-3. I'm still on board with you right now, but man, their season does not get any easier. I just hope that everything comes to fruition. I really do, because it's just going to be a great story, especially now that, the Rays have moved on. Tampa, the Lightning got their championship. I mean, listen, the only thing missing is a basketball team in Tampa, and you might be able to start calling yourself Titletown, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Miss Karen Loftus, WFLA sports reporter, thank you so much for your time here on the Sports Arena. Hey, please be safe. Look forward to having you back on the show.
Thanks, Eric. Talk to you soon.
All right. Guys, that's going to do it for your man, Eric Wilson, Sports Arena. Hey, have a great day. Talk to you guys later. See ya.